It is a sad time for the Championship. It's 2 weeks off Championship football now. After just getting into it again, it's now 2 weeks off because it's the international break. But we've got 5 things that we've learned from week 9 in the Championship, which was, again, another unbelievable week of Championship football. If you're a fan of the Championship content, do hit subscribe on this channel. We do daily Championship content. So if you support any team in this division, do hit that subscribe button and do drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video, and let me know your thoughts on this weekend's games as well in the comments. So jumping straight into it, I mean, at first glance it's just the league table. I know I say this pretty much every single week, but it just continues to get madder and madder. And you think as the weeks go by, teams are going to spread apart. There's going to be teams that pull away, there's going to be teams that drop off. But you look at it here, you know, you've got Birmingham sat in 16th in the Championship on 12 points. Just 4 points off third place. From 16th to third, there is literally 4 points separating these teams. And it just proves how wild this division has been so far this season. Just so many teams in such close proximity together right now is absolutely crazy. And I know Championship has always been like this, but this season, it feels more than ever as far as the division goes so far. But I wanted to start off by talking about the league leaders so far, because it's worth talking about both sides of the table. You know, you've got Coventry now sat at the top of the table against Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, I just want to speak about the kind of protest first for Sheffield Wednesday, because obviously, I mean, we saw about it all week how Sheffield Wednesday were going to plan to have a lot of fans all raiding the pitch and maybe, I don't know, get the game called off or bring serious light to the situation. Now, it ended up happening. The Wednesday fans ended up storming the pitch, but there was about 10 fans that ended up going on the pitch, 10 or 20. There was just quite simply not enough fans, and there was a lot of people obviously that were backing this thing, and it looked like it was going to be like hundreds of fans, and it was going to be a real stance, to the point where, as I say, it's got to be talked about. And it wasn't the main talking point. It wasn't as big a talking point as what it should have been. The main talking point was when there wasn't enough Wednesday fans that did it, and why did everybody not do it? Like, you either go, for me anyway, you know, you either don't do it at all or you all do it. Do you know what I mean? There's no flip-flop and there's no going halfway with it, which, I mean, obviously was the case, and it's sad to see. Obviously, there's been a big outrage from Wednesday fans and kind of a lot of controversy in that. I mean, they do have things planned further forward. They've got another embargo as well. Or, I mean, there's just more stuff coming against Wednesday, and you just feel like it's going to get worse as the season goes on. What's going on is an absolute disgrace, and stuff needs to be... I've seen Reading fans, I know they raided the pitch when they were in an absolute diabolical situation, and apparently it went a long way for Reading. So you'd hope that Wednesday would do that, and, you know, first time, and they'd get it right and do it successfully in terms of the point they wanted to get across. And I don't think it really happened in terms of that. And on the football pitch and on the football field, it wasn't exactly much better in terms of the result. I mean, obviously, this is a result. I mean, my predictions, I predicted 4-0 to Coventry, and people thought maybe that was a little bit much. But you've seen Coventry this season. It was 5-0 in the end, and Coventry going forward are just an absolute joke. The results that they're getting are just ridiculous week in, week out. Of course, they had a little blip where they drew a few games in a row, but they're still unbeaten so far this season now, going into the second international break. And just look at these last 3 results, you know, 3-0 against Birmingham, 4-0 then against Millwall, and 5-0 against Wednesday. They're putting teams to the sword. They've got so much quality going forward. Like, Frank Lampard is really getting the best out of these attackers who, you know, previously haven't exactly... You look at that as Mason Clark, you look at Thomas Asante, like, these guys are hitting new levels under Frank Lampard that they weren't hitting before for Coventry City. So good going forward, so much talent in that side, and Lampard is absolutely getting the best out of them. Of course, you know, they've been unbelievable so far this season, 0 losses. They've got to keep this going all season. This is a serious opportunity, I think, this season for a team like Coventry to break into the automatic promotion place this season. You look at the other teams faltering, you've got, if you're a Coventry fan, you know, you've got to think this is a serious opportunity of having such a special season this season and potentially getting Premier League football at the end of it. Because as I say, there's a lot of teams here. You look at all these teams from, you know, Borough down. You obviously got Ipswich, we'll talk about a bit later, who can definitely make their way up. But you do see a lot of these teams faltering. Obviously, Leicester will speak about them as well. But there's a lot of teams that you do see faltering, just because I said there's a lot of teams that are just so close in ability, and teams are going to inevitably drop points this season. You got to think Coventry, you know, 27 goals scored in 9 matches, just 7 goals conceded, plus 20 goal difference. In terms of performance-wise and going forward, they've been leaps and bounds above any team in the division by far. You look at the other top scorers in the league. You go into Bristol City, who've scored 15 goals, and Ipswich have scored 15. They're 12 goals clear with a defence that's pretty much better than everybody else as well. They've got like the second best defence or third best defence in the league, along with the best attack by far. Like, all those things added together, it's a combination that, you know, you see teams getting promoted. It's about, obviously, as the season goes on, don't drop any silly points, and obviously continue what they're doing going forward. You really think Coventry stand an unbelievable chance. As for Wednesday, I mean, It's just a disaster, isn't it, really? Obviously, they were never expecting anything going into that game. They've been very competitive Wednesday, and they really have put up a fight. Obviously, 3 games unbeaten previously before going into this game against Coventry, which is just such a difficult game. Wednesday will keep battling. Obviously, it's going to be tough this season, but they've performed, on the most part, pretty decent considering the circumstances. They're only 6 points. They're still competitive in the division. So if they can keep being competitive for as long as they can, obviously a game against Coventry, you're not really going to get judged on. Just because, at the end of the day, Coventry have put teams higher up the table to the sword as well. You look at that to Millwall and QPR. Both sat well in the top half. They've put both of those sides to the sword so far. What better way is there now to head across Sheffield and start talking about Sheffield United? Because it's gone from bad to worse. Honestly, is there going to be a point where you actually think about they're in the conversation for relegation? You just feel like Sheffield United, they've got the quality in their side. Surely they're going to turn things around and put a run of results together, which I still absolutely think they will. But it's getting to the point where it's getting very, very concerning now. Just 3 points all season. The amount of losses they've got is absolutely ridiculous. Things haven't really turned too well for Chris Wilder in another very, very frustrating game. Obviously, they had a lot of chances, Sheffield United did. Hull City ended up getting the win, winning the game 1-0. And the most, the thing that sums it up the most is that penalty. Obviously, Harrison Burrows has struggled so far this season. Obviously, I know he's got a very good record and he's stepped up and taken penalties in the past for Sheffield United and been very successful. But the player who won the penalty was Danny Ings, who, if you look at his penalty record, he's only missed 1 penalty in the last 12 years or something. He's got a really good record. Obviously, he's taken penalties in very high pressure situations, Premier League matches for Southampton, for previous clubs that he's played for as well. And he's got a very good record in taking them penalties. A very experienced player. I feel like in that moment, especially with him winning the penalty, I feel like he should be stepping up and being the one to take that penalty in that situation. If things are going well for Sheffield United and Harrison Burrows is in form, I'd probably say, yeah, maybe give it to Harrison Burrows, who obviously took the penalties last season. But for me, I think Danny Ings has got to step up in that moment to take the penalty. And it just kind of sums up the situation that Sheffield United are in. Obviously, when you're at the bottom of the league, things just don't go right, but things just don't drop for you. The ball doesn't end up in the back of the net. And it's just one of them situations where you've just got to hope a result could change that and the tables can turn so quickly, because we know the quality that Sheffield United have in that side, but they're just not hitting the heights and not at the level that anyone expects them to be this season. I'm still confident they'll turn it around, but it's concerning signs for Sheffield United so far this season. I mean, it's absolutely embarrassing to be in that situation. They were expected to be right at the top of the league at the start of the season. It hasn't worked out at all. And I want to speak about the comeback, of course, of my team QPR. Real big 2-1 win against Bristol City. It wasn't exactly an amazing performance. We had 2 big chances, and both the chances we got, we ended up taking, and a massive 2-1 win away at Bristol City. I don't think any team in this game were really the most impressive. It was a very close game. On the stats there, I mean, you can see expected goals. Bristol City had more. They had a few good chances in the first half, and could have had a penalty in there as well. But overall, real big win, and shows a lot of character for us to come back. 6 unbeaten now, and it's away against Bristol City. It's always going to be a tough place to go. Bristol City I've spoken about numerous times this season. I really do rate them as a side. Emil, Riis, Mehmeti, they got a good system and they got some real quality players in there. So a real big result for QPR. And as I say, Kone getting another goal. This guy's been on fire for us since signing so far from Wycombe. Looks to be a real talent. Obviously coming into, I've got that unbelievable record in League One especially the first half of the season for Wycombe. He's come in and has continued to kind of hit the ground running really with his goal scoring form so far this season. And Portsmouth goes back to haunt Bristol City. Again, a big 2-1 win now, which takes us up into the playoffs going into the international break, which is absolutely crazy really, considering it was literally the game that started the 6 game unbeaten run. Losing that game was 7-1 to Coventry, and ever since then, we've gone 6 unbeaten and we've been unbelievable since then. Who knows what could happen this season? As I say, it's a very open division, and both of these teams, QPR and Bristol City, will fancy their chances at maybe getting themselves into the playoffs, given the fact that the league table is looking the way it is right now and teams have started the way that they have. Speaking of a team that started the way they have, it's Southampton, who, again, they dropped points. It's another draw for Southampton. They've got a lot of draws over the course of this season so far. Adam Armstrong getting a goal, kind of battled his way through and scored. I think it was assisted by Ross Stewart, who played it through as well. Unfortunately, I mean, this guy is absolutely just made of glass. He goes down with an injury. He took a strike and then he ends up pulling his hamstring or something. He's gone down again. It is such a shame. With the second Ross Stewart, you see the best for me. You see that game against Sheffield United, you think, at that point, you're like, he's just scored 2 goals. If he can stay fit, we've got a serious player on our hands this season. next game he goes and pulls his hamstring, whatever he's done, and he's back out again. It's just such bad luck for Ross Stewart. And as I say, it just seems like he's made of glass and he just cannot stay fit in a Southampton shirt at all. Good for Adam Armstrong getting a goal. And Agyemang, I mean, this guy's an absolute handful. He's been really good since getting the minutes that I've watched him play for Derby. Seems to be a real handful. Good ball into the box from Andreas Weimann, and he absolutely leapt like a salmon. And he dominated whoever the centre back was, maybe Wood. I think it might have been Wood he was up against. Absolutely dominated him, headed the ball into the back of the net, and levels things up for Derby. I mean, it's two teams that have got a lot of draws right this season. Yeah, Derby 5 draws so far this season. Southampton 5 draws as well. Two teams that you'd have to say have underwhelmed performance-wise so far this season. And I mean, if there's any, I think I predicted a draw in this game as well. If there's ever going to be a draw, it would have been between those two, because those two just can't stop drawing matches so far this season. And I mean, another one that I want to talk about was Preston North End against Charlton. Preston have been the surprise package so far this season in terms of, I think a lot of people, I think including myself, we had them in the bottom 3, and there's no way this side's getting relegated. They've absolutely surprised us week in, week out. I mean, even Dan Jefferson's scored himself a goal. But I want to speak about Thierry Small up against his former club. I believe he was getting booed from the Charlton fans. And, I mean, the celebration, he no love lost at all with the celebration from Thierry Small. And a real well-taken goal. And he's been class since signing from Charlton on a free transfer. Genuinely, right now, you'd have to say he's been one of the signings of the summer in terms of the performances this guy's been putting in, the potential he's still got, only 21 years old. A really exciting player and 2 real good finishes as well. I think he's scored in the last 2 games, actually, Matt, and now Thierry Small. So he's been really impressive. And Preston on the whole have been really, really good. I mean, it's more of the same problems for Charlton. On the most part, defensively, they've been really solid, but it's going forward. You know, you look at these strikers, these forwards that they're playing, literally none of them are contributing anywhere near enough, and you do think that that's my main worry. It has been my worry with Charlton. Of course, Nathan Jones is a fantastic manager in terms of at championship level, and the club that he's got with Charlton, he's done a fantastic job so far, but goals have been the issue. Defensively, they've been really solid. You know, you look there, you've got your 2 strikers that started. Campbell's got an assist. Kelman's not scored. Obviously, they've got Matty Godham, who's injured right now. And once he gets back into action, you'd hope he can be the guy that can maybe inject a few goals into that Charlton Athletic side. Because, as I say, going forward, it hasn't really been good enough. Defensively, very solid. Obviously, a difficult game against Preston, a real good result again for Preston, who continue to shock the division. And who knows at the end of the season? I mean, if they can keep that form going, you never know. They could definitely have definitely could fancy their chances of nicking a spot in the playoffs this season. Another game here, Leicester versus Swansea. I mean, it just shows that Leicester's individual talent. You look at the goal here that Jordan James, I think he hit the post as well. He's been absolutely fantastic since coming into that Leicester starting 11. Really, really good signing from what he looks to be so far. Got a goal in him, got a good strike. He's got an unbelievable. I mean, Leicester had 2 contenders for goals of the weekend. First one being Jordan Jones, who, as I say, looks to be a real player. Who's still only 21 years old. Of course, I believe he's on loan from Rennes over in France. And he's been great so far. Definitely a player that maybe even Premier League clubs could be looking at if he can continue that form for Leicester. And then you've got, Swansea level it up through a penalty. I mean, Wout Faes, I mean, the guy, what is he doing? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it looked like a penalty. I've not watched it in too much detail, but that looked to be just a rash tackle. I don't know why he's going to ground like that. I mean, Wout Faes in time is just so questionable. I mean, for a Championship, he is a decent centre-back for the most part. Obviously, he got promoted with Leicester last season at the back. He's still just so rash and makes so many poor decisions, Wout Faes does. But this is where you need your players to step up, your talisman, your leaders in your team, and leaders in terms of ability on the pitch, and it's Abdi Fatawi. This guy is an absolute joke. Another one, it's like you know what he's going to do, but you just can't stop it, because he's got that kind of ability, and he's just so quick when he does it. And as I say, you know what he's going to do, but there's no stopping it. When Abdi Fatawi gets the ball under a spell like that, cuts inside, curls one in again, absolutely standard in terms of Fatawi so far this season. And then Leicester kill off the game. And as I say, Leicester weren't unbelievable or anything like that. Again, like Swansea had chances in the match. On another day, Swansea could have walked away and got themselves another goal, maybe even won the match when it got to 1-1. But then you've got the talent of Fatawi who can just step up and pull some out of the bag like that. That's the kind of quality that Leicester have got, and that's why Leicester will be right up there with or without the points deduction come the end of the season, because they have players like that who in numerous games now, Fatawi's earned Leicester points quite simply on his own with his ability. And same with James as well, who's showed unbelievable individual ability on them goals. And Martin Cifuentes and Leicester keep marching on, and it has been a good start to the season, you have to say, for Leicester so far. And then you've also got Watford as well. I mean, they turned the game around literally on the 45th minute And, I mean, they created a lot of chances in this game, Watford did, and were worthy of the win. Oxford obviously came back in the second half. Watford managed to hold on and get themselves the win. There's so much pressure on this manager, and obviously the Watford fans haven't taken to him well. They believe their squad can be getting into the playoffs as far as what I'm seeing from Watford fans. As far as points go, it's not been a disaster start. 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses. Obviously, the performances haven't been exactly the best. The manager's made a few questionable decisions, a few questionable lineups. They're still sat on 12 points. They're sat in 11th. I mean, I predicted Watford then. I think a lot of people will probably predict Watford to be where they are right now. So, obviously, it's been a few good results in a row now for Watford. And it takes a little bit of pressure off the manager. But I think the second Watford lose again, they'll be straight on his back again. And it still feels like it's inevitable that this manager's going to end up going, which is, I mean, if Watford isn't, they get rid of managers all the time, but it's just crazy because the points total isn't actually that bad. I know they're joint 16th, but they're only 3 points off the playoffs. You know, another positive result, and they're right in the mix in the next match. And for Oxford, I mean, it's concerning, isn't it? Just 6 points picked up in the first 9 matches. Some decent performances recently, to be honest, as well. I mean, I thought against QPR when I watched that game, I thought they were decent. Obviously, an unbelievable performance against Bristol City. It's not absolute panic stages, but Oxford need more points on the board and need to get a win out of someone. Obviously, one win out of the first 9 isn't really good enough. They're going to need some more performances and pull some more results out of the bag if they are going to be steering clear of relegation. They're a side that I do worry about so far this season. And I predicted an Oxford win. I thought, you know, with the atmosphere at Watford, I thought Oxford could go there after a positive result against QPR. I thought they'd go there and get a result, but unfortunately for Oxford, that wasn't the case. And I am a little bit concerned. I am going to do my updated championship predictions soon. And Oxford, I mean, I am getting a little bit nervous about them with the way they've started the season. But they have got a good manager in Gary Rowett, who I'm sure will be able to get some results and be able to turn things around. But as I say, so far this season, in terms of points total, just the 6 points picked up is nowhere near as much as what they would have hoped. Right, then we're going on to the final game of the weekend, which was on the Sunday, the East Anglian derby between Ipswich and Norwich, which, I mean, what is going on at Norwich? There's serious questions of Liam Manning at this point. I mean, the character in that game, the mentality, I thought was very, very poor. I mean, for the last goal that Jack Clark scored, Harry Darling gets the ball and like dribbles the ball out of defence, which looks to be like at the start, he looked like he was going pretty strong. Like he was, you know, he taking a couple of players out of the game, and then he takes some diabolical touch, and then the ball falls to Nunes, who obviously former Norwich, comes on bench, plays a great pass through to Azon, then the ball goes to Jack Clark on the rebound after it hits the post, and he finishes off the game. I mean, I think most people predicted Ipswich. I think even Norwich fans were not confident at all going. They thought this was the end of the 17-year unbeaten run. I think a lot of Norwich fans thought it going into it, and that proved to be the case. I mean, the goals that Norwich conceded it's just too easy to play. They've conceded too many simple and goals that were so avoidable over the course of this season, and you know, conceding from a set piece. And then, I mean, Philigine's goal was unbelievable. I think the keeper should maybe do a little bit better for the goal. I think it's a great strike from Philigine, a great turn as well. But, you know, no one's really closing down the ball, too much time, too easy to get turned as well. I mean, for a derby day, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's derby or not. It was just Norwich players didn't look up to it, and they weren't at the races at all compared to this Ipswich side for the vast majority of the game. And it is concerning going forward for Norwich. You've got to think for Liam Manning. I wouldn't say it's like he's going to go after this game or anything, but you know, he's got to start turning things around here because 8 points is nowhere near good enough. Obviously, there's been a lot of change. They've still got an unbelievable striker in Sargent who hasn't been great over the last few matches, but so disappointing for Norwich. And for Ipswich, I mean, they're doing all right now. Since the last international break, they've come back and they've started getting positive results. You know, you look at 5-0 and then a win. Obviously, they had the game against Blackburn, which probably would have been a loss. But then, you know, you look at it in the 4 games they have played, they've actually counted 3 wins and a draw. Good draw against Bristol City as well away. You have to say they have kind of turned a corner now. They have been putting in better performances since the turn of his international break. And you do feel like the longer this season goes on, the more McKenna's got to work with these players and the more confident Ipswich are getting back in the division and kind of getting that winning mentality back. Obviously, they're getting relegated from the Premier League where you lose pretty much most of the games in the Premier League. It's difficult to instill that winning mentality back straight away. And you feel like Ipswich are starting to get into gear now. And you feel like they are going to head up the table, especially with, you know, they're only 5 points off automatic promotion with a game in hand. They'll be 3 points off top of the league if they do win that game against Blackburn, the rematch. Whenever that does take place, I don't even know if it's been put in yet. But as I say, that you feel like Ipswich are going to end up storming their way up the table. and they're going to end up getting themselves into automatic promotion places sooner rather than later. When you look at the quality in that side, I mean, Jaden Phillips in this season has been absolutely ridiculous. He's had a real tough time over the last, well, since he went back to Villa after his spell with Hull. He really has struggled, but now for Ipswich, he's started to turn a corner this season. He's just looked ridiculous. His long shots, I mean, both feet, left foot, right foot, going on both sides. He looks like unbelievable so far this season. I think if he can continue that form and he continue the way that he's playing right now, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this guy could even be a contender for Championship Player of the Season the way that he's going right now. So that's a huge positive for Ipswich, who, as I say, since the international break have definitely turned a corner. And you've got to say, in the first few games they weren't at the races, but right now they're walking away with just one loss in the first 8 games, and you don't think they've hit top gear at all yet so far this season, which is a little bit concerning for the rest of the division in terms of how good Ipswich could potentially end up being with a bit more time in the league. So let me know what you think of that in the comment section down below. Let me know how your team got on in the comments. I'll be very interested to get your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, do drop a like. Subscribe to the channel as well. We do daily Championship content, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it would be very greatly appreciated. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.